Did Jon Stewart just get red-pilled? Nah, Jon Stewart's never going to get red-pilled, let's face facts. Neither is Bill Maher. But Jon Stewart may have spit out the blue pill. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. And guys, it was here's the thing about Bill Maher and Jon Stewart. I don't particularly care for either one of them, and I certainly don't care for their politics. But they're both smart guys, and both of them do have moments of intellectual integrity where when they see something on their own team that is pretty egregious, they'll just openly admit it. And I like to think that we're the same way. We've often done shows critical of the president or conservative policies. That's just plain intellectual honesty. But Jon Stewart was having a chat with Ezra Klein about government efficiency. And the subject was the plan to provide high-speed Wi-Fi to those areas of the country that don't have it. Billions of dollars were allocated. Billions were allocated.
50, I think it was.
50 billion?
Yeah,
Thank you, Steve. You're much better informed upon the subject than I am. There is one part of that equation that I am familiar with, though. I think $50 billion was allocated. Steve, what was the actual number of houses that they hooked up for their $50 billion?
Zero. None.
Zero. So here's what's fascinating, folks. In order to really understand the effect on Jon Stewart, you really do need to listen to Ezra Klein explain for the better part of a half an hour the process by which bids were accepted for this contract. But this is just a very brief little clip of highlights.
Then,
is that the result of their $5 million planning fund? This initial
I assume,
proposal?
but then what was the 5-year plan?
And what the did they apply for? What was their NOFO?
Like, if the 5-year action plan isn't the initial proposal, then what's the 5-year action
plan? Forget NOFO.
Okay.
MOFO. These are mother this is crazy.
Step 9, NTIA must review and approve each state's, again, initial proposal. By my read, we have had at least 2 initial proposals here, but that's a different issue.
Oh, my God.
Step 10, states must publish their own map and allow internal challenges to their own map. So the government has published a map. They have invited the states to challenge the map. Then states have submitted initial proposals, and they then have to publish their own map and allow challenges.
Wait, who's challenging it within the state?
Well, organized interest groups, environmental groups, like I don't know who specifically, but literally anybody. This is, right. I want to say something because it's very important I say this. This is the Biden administration's process for its own bill. They wanted this to happen. This is how liberal government works now.
This is something they instituted for this bill.
For their bill.
They wanted this.
It's so important to say this. This is not how Republicans handicapped a liberal bill. This is a bill passed by Democrats with a regulatory structure written by Democratic administration. Okay.
Right.
This, by the way, so the thing I'm looking at, it tells me as of March of 2025, how many of the players had gone through everything. So and until what I just said, states must publish their own map and allow challenges. 3 years plus into this, all 56 had done that. But now you begin to see players falling out. Step 11, the NTIA must review and improve the challenge results and the final map. So the NTIA has put forward a map. The states have challenged that map. Then the states have put forward their maps, had other challenges. And now the NTIA must review and approve the challenges to the state maps. Okay.
Steve, this is like something out of Brazil, the Terry Gilliam movie, isn't it? I mean, it's just...
It's trying to get ducks installed. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have to say about, you know what, here's what I'd like to concentrate on. Not the absurdity of the red tape, of which we could show you 3% of what the contractors actually had to go through in order to even be considered for this bid. But what I'd like to get your take on is what is going through Jon Stewart's mind when he realizes that Elon Musk is actually right, that this no, it's even bigger than that. Put that aside. That what happens when a progressive realizes just how dysfunctional government actually genuinely is and can't get away from it anymore.
Yeah, he didn't take the red pill. As you said, that's never going to happen. And Bill Maher occasionally teases us that he's going to take the red pill. He's got the pill, he's got the glass of water, but he's never going to do it. It's just relax. It's not going to happen. But what did happen to Jon Stewart, and I watched the whole thing, and I was Schadenfreude-licious from start to finish, as far as I was concerned. What did happen to Stewart was his West Wing progressivism view of the government was shattered. And I'm talking about the old Aaron Sorkin TV show where the White House is run by all these snappy, talking, fast-walking people going through the West Wing, finding solutions. And
real smart and with big hearts.
Oh, yeah. And when the president
Just
wants
like
his
him.
Puppies and Rainbows Act passed, he gives the big speeches all across the country, and the grassroots people wave their signs and applaud, and then it goes to Congress, and they hold hearings on the Puppies and Rainbows Act, and they write the bill. It's the beautiful, well-meaning bill that's going to just provide puppies and rainbows to all Americans from coast to coast, and the president signs it in the Rose Garden, and before you know it, there are puppies and rainbows everywhere, except we know, honest people know, people with their eyes open know that's not how Washington works at all. And to watch Jon Stewart learn from Ezra Klein, another one of these well-meaning progressives, if that's not a contradiction in terms.
No, they deserve credit for it. They do.
Yeah, to watch that wool being stripped from Jon Stewart's eyes was such a pleasure. Part of it is because my black shriveled little heart just enjoys seeing that kind of thing. But the bigger picture, the actual good part is maybe Stewart has learned a lesson that Washington does not work the way he thought it worked from watching The West Wing. And this is how it actually works. And maybe if he wants to do some of these do-gooder things that he says he supports, maybe he'll spend the money and do some of them himself. That's what America is all about.
Well, Scott, this leads us to kind of a bigger issue, because I think any time really before 2024, certainly any time before 2020, if Jon Stewart got disgusted enough with the policies that he had been promoting long enough, big government and big taxes and all the rest of it, he would have no choice but to either become an independent or a Republican. But the political alignment has changed. It's no longer a horizontal divide between left and right and Republican and Democrat. It's much more vertical now. It's much more this is the insider Washington ruling class, which consists of big government and big business. And here are the people outside who are all of a sudden finding themselves in these strange alliances. The alliance between MAGA and MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. The idea that RFK Jr. could be on the same stage as Donald Trump and both be promoting the same idea that is appealing to huge numbers of Americans. Jon Stewart doesn't have to take a red pill, does he? He can get off the reservation and realize that for whatever reason, this is no longer about the Republican myth versus the Democrat myth of our values. That both Republicans and Democrats have become something that neither side would want to particularly identify with.
Yeah, and I think to a certain extent, the expressions like that red pill expression, which had to be explained to me after I heard it for the fourth time, I finally said, okay, why is everybody saying this? I don't even know what you're talking about. I saw The Matrix a couple of times, but it was a great movie. But I think that does us no favors because as we have talked about often on this show, when someone is moving in your direction, get out of the way. Take your jacket off and lay it over the mud puddle. Let them come. And so I don't really care whether some point comes at which Jon Stewart or Bill Maher makes some sort of public pronouncement about their, change of affiliation. That doesn't really matter. What I want to see is real stuff like this. I want to see them encountering what happens in government, thinking about it seriously, not being so blind to partisanship that they just endorse whatever it is, but being willing to critique it. That's healthy. That's good stuff. I want to see more of that on both sides. I want to see people being honest with each other. I want a legitimate dialogue in this country, and that can be fruitful. That means you can sit down with somebody like Jon Stewart and say, look, I know we see things completely differently. Here are my concerns, for example, about this cable internet for the poor program. I think we did a show on this a couple of years ago where we talked about the fact that there were government employees or government-funded employees going door to door down the South, through trailer parks and such, trying to get people to sign up for this benefit. And there were cable companies that were like, I can't believe what they're trying to make us go through to be part of this. And we were laughing at it at that time. No surprise to us anyway, or to our listeners, that this was a failure. But the more we can get people to see the nuts and bolts of it all, to see what it really looks like in practice and not just talk about it in theory, I think the more impact that has. And it also reflects well upon us if we're saying, look, I'm not just trying to make some principled argument where we can just have, different opinions. I want you to look at the data. I want you to see what happened when this experiment, which was in line with this set of principles, actually was attempted, when they tried to apply this and see what happens because of human nature, see what happens. And maybe that will shape how aggressive you are at promoting the next similar kind of project.
Well, social media and the internet have done so much damage to society in so many ways, but ultimately they may be what saves our civilization. The negatives are enormous, and we see the consequences of this with the behavior of young people and the over-sexualization of people, the availability of porn, and we go on and on and on. But what the internet has done is it has allowed the free flow of information in a way that is unstoppable. And this particular video is just a small part of that. What we see here in the case of guys like RFK, and in the case of Joe Rogan, and in the case of any number of people who have become what we would call, if not conservative, then certainly have left the liberal plantation, have come as a result of open access to information, the ability for them to see and hear things that were not possible to even imagine even 10 years ago. The mainstream media is not the mainstream media anymore. We are the media now, as Elon Musk famously put it. By opening up X, he has basically made a pathway, a large sluiceway of information available, and it has opened the eyes of people. I could not agree with Scott more. This is not me. I'm not rubbing my hands at, oh, look at Jon Stewart suffering. I'm thinking Jon Stewart could be a very, very powerful advocate for reality and reform of government if he simply saw the government the way that we see the government. And that to me is the most surprising thing about that particular experience, or that exchange rather, between Ezra Klein and Jon Stewart. Watching the surprise on Jon Stewart's face as all of this endless rows of red tape that has to go back to the map, that has to come back and be approved, and then that completes the initial phase of the project. Now we can begin to move into phase 2. And he was shocked. We're not shocked by this. I have a cousin who stays on my Facebook feed and who is constantly posting all of these horrific things that Republicans do and talking about how awful we are. And I want to say to her, if everything that you believe about us was true, I would hate us too. I would, but as Ronald Reagan said, it's not that our liberal friends are stupid, it's just that so much of what they know just ain't so. And so Jon Stewart and Bill Maher both are doing a service for the country, whether they realize it or not. And I just think it needs to be said that for somebody on camera to make an open realization like, my God, I had no idea things were this bad, when he's talking about the things that he's voted for and the people that he supported. That's intellectual integrity, and we've tried very hard to practice that here, and we continue to practice it here. I think, as a general rule, conservatives are much more willing to look at the other side of the argument, if for no other reason than it's just rammed down our throats every single day. But in any event, open discussion about the reality of the world we live in has realigned the sides. And I think what Jon Stewart realized is that Elon Musk is right. That doesn't mean I'm going to be a Republican, but I think it does mean I can no longer defend Joe Biden's spending policies and all of his initiatives as blindly as I used to do. And that is the first step towards opening your eyes. For there are none so blind as those who will not see. And the person who has the courage to actually open their eyes and look at something that they don't like and say, okay, that changed my mind. That's a brave person. That person deserves a little credit, even if they are a communist 99% of the time. For Steve Green and Scott Ott, I'm Bill Whittle. We'll see you next time right here on Right Angle.